Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's time for more beautiful, fun, action-packed, exciting, and ridiculous DoorDash LCO with Rusty and Elfish Guy. Only because Elfish Guy's here, you know, he's a bit tired today. You know, he's been waking up at about 4 a.m. and usually going to bed now. Absolute old man. So what do you got to say for yourself, Jordan?
That's not actually true. Last night I was up until 10 o'clock, Mac, so you'd be pretty impressed.
Wow.
I didn't have to stay up late.
You might actually make it through today, and I'm so proud of you, Jordan. Now,
Thank you.
someone else I'm proud of is Dave Harris, because he's sent in some content. Let's have a look here from the fans at Dave Harris Oz. Sorry, got order in to eat relaxing in front of at DoorDash LCO, stoking controversy again with an alternatively named HSP.
What is a mix of golden box? But I guess I have my answer.
We set your order to Golden Pide, so it's what they call their HSPs. That's fine. Look, they have their own little fancy names. Obviously, it's not the correct name for a HSP, but that's fine. That's fine.
What was the original controversial name? Was it a meat box?
Meat box, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's what this is, right? They're just calling it a golden box. So once again, they've taken, like, they've got the wrong name.
Well,
yeah,
you
for
know,
the good stuff.
the thing is, you know, a lot of people, a lot of places that call it a meat box probably just don't have the halal meat. I think we went over that one. As well as apparently just in WA, they just call it a meat box for whatever reason. They're wrong. That's okay. A meat box over here is just a box of meat, and you can still get that from any usually from any kebab shop, and it's pretty good. I've gotten one. You know, it was when I was trying to cut the carbs, and it was just literal meat. So I wouldn't recommend it, and I hope that Dave Harris is not on that diet, because I pity him if he is, and hopefully it is just a HSP. He did say it was. Now, that brings us to the game, you know, of great conversations about food.
Should we talk about the game? Or?
Well, you know, tell me about your tomato sauce on your HSP, Jordan. We'll talk about that.
Actually tastes good, by the way. Should try it. And the rice makes it even better, can I just say, by the way.
You can say it. Doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah, it's not true. It's not true. It's definitely not true. Something that is true is this matchup is going to be a banger. Order taking on Gravitas, and let's talk Order first. And Jordan, Order, they haven't sent you a shirt yet, have they?
No, they haven't. And actually, one thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into Order was that I do remember a special someone ordering a halal snack pack with rice last time I was working with him in the studio.
Yeah, rice
His
snack
name
packs are
rhymed
fine.
with back. Anyway, let's talk about Order.
Tomato
They
sauce.
are looking
Bad.
like a pretty good squad at the moment. They're looking like sometimes a pretty good squad at the moment. I think it's probably the way that I want to put it. I feel like they've been a bit up and down, and that really has been the takeaway for me for Order this split. 5-4 so far. They've won a lot of games that we expect them to win, but they've also lost a couple of games that we don't really expect them to lose, and they've just been a bit up and down. So I'm wondering whether or not we're going to see that high level of consistency come through from Order. At the moment, they're doing enough to get through to playoffs, and to be fair, it kind of looks like they probably still will, but I suppose with the resurgence of the likes of Direwolves, who right now are sort of sitting on the outside edges of that playoff spot, maybe there is a world where Order still does drop off, particularly if Gravitas can keep up the pace. And for me, I think that's really the key thing. It's like, if Order and Gravitas continue to keep their pace up, I mean, are we missing Pentanet or Direwolves out of the playoffs run? So for now, it's probably still early days. It's probably a little bit too early to be talking about playoffs, but I'm just wanting to see a tiny bit more consistency from Order, because they have shown us some really good games, but they've also lost a few games more than they might have liked.
Yeah, I think that's something that we really need to remember. But at least getting those early wins on the board is very crucial at keeping that position higher up on the ladder. Even if you lose a bit of consistency, maybe you'll find it towards the end of the split and still be able to make playoffs. But Rusty, it's your turn to talk about Gravitas and why they found so much success up until this point. Yeah, that's about it. You know, tell me about Thomas Shen.
Well, I can tell you about Thomas Shen, but we're talking about the reason they've been successful up until this point. So I'm actually going to start with Safa. But I mean, that's no flame to Thomas Shen. That's just all compliments to Safa. So let's all just calm down for a second, please. that wasn't an insult. Thomas Shen's great.
Toxic.
Do not hate me, Twitch chat. I know you will. Anyway, Safa has been, so he is seemingly the rise and fall of this team right now. If you think back to their last game that you did see against Direwolves, Safa was getting hard camped, which is why I say the fall as well as the rise, because they've looked great at moments. And this was when Kiyose lifted instead of Safa. And again, with Gravitas, we've seen them win in different ways. We've seen them win when they've had disadvantages as well as advantages. It's been cleaner and cleaner week on week, but a very clear recipe has now been built on how to beat this team. and that's a concern that they'll have to address for me coming into the game today.
Yeah, I think another thing from that game in particular as well is we were talking in the key picks that Volibear was such a very, very strong pick in the jungle at the moment in terms of the win rate, and Akano has been tearing up a storm but only managed to pick it away from him in the previous matchup. However, he has that as an opportunity today, but someone else that is, you know, pretty stoked on the opportunity to talk to two handsome fellas down on the sidelines is probably Nat. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. So stoked, especially because I am going to be joined by Floppy and Chungy. Thank you both so much for joining me. Chungy, I want to ask you, you know, how has practice been going for you guys as you prepare for the Super Week?
I think practice is going well. The loss against Legacy was like eye-opening for our team, so we're just trying to like find our own team identity, like coming into this week.
What have you sort of more specifically been looking at? Is it the communication within the team or some other things?
Well, I think last week we got like heavily punished in draft, so I think drafting is like, I guess, our priority at the moment.
Does that mean we could potentially be seeing some new champs coming up for you guys?
Potentially, yeah.
I'm looking forward to the draft stage then. But Floppy, how are you feeling coming into this Super Week?
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. I think Super Weeks, in general, it feels like there's just so little time to like, the turnaround is a lot, there's a lot less time, I guess, to just prepare. So I feel like I'm still confident, but like, yeah, I think ideally I would have liked more time to prepare between these games, but I think it's really exciting to have 3 games of LCO on per week.
I'm sure all the viewers are just as excited as you are to have those 3 games as well. I also want to know, you know, you guys have been looking good some days for Gravitas, but you still haven't really found that consistency. Do you think this week is going to be it for you guys, that you could potentially have a 3-0 week?
I mean, potentially. It's really hard to just predict from, you know, just this early on in the week. I do think, yes, you've highlighted a big issue within Gravitas, like just consistently in general has been not very good. So that is definitely something that we've been trying to focus on during this week.
Similar sort of sentiment. What exactly have you guys been looking at to try and get that consistency?
Well, without revealing too much about how we prep, I think just like, you know, thoroughly reviewing the things that the team believes are holding us back, you know, proper VOD viewing of the games and scrims and all that, making sure that we're, you know, focusing during scrims and in solo queue as well. Yeah, I think those are probably the biggest contributing factors.
Now, I want to boost the confidence of you guys a little bit, so I want to know your predictions for how long you think this game is going to take for you to win. If you want to go first, Floppy.
Okay, that's really hard to predict without seeing drafts, but let's just say 32 minutes.
32 minutes? Alrighty, Chungy, what about you? How confident are you guys you gonna?
Yeah, it also depends on draft, but I'm probably going to say like 35 minutes or something. Yeah, around then.
Okay. Yeah, pretty similar predictions, but we will see who's closest as we get into this game. So thank you both so much for joining me, and good luck today.
Thank you.
Really great to hear from the boys and how excited they are to get into the game. 32 minutes, I think that's a pretty good prediction. I think that's probably roughly the average game time. I think earlier weeks it might have been towards that 40-minute mark, but now we've had a couple of sort of 24, 28-minute sort of games, so it might have brought it back. I guess that's something we can have a look at. However, let's have a quick chat about predictions and which way all the talent seem to think this is going to go. Of course, I've gone with Twitch chat. Doing God's work for me. 30 and 8. Thank you very much. Oh,
They've done it again.
What do you mean?
God, what is my prediction rate, man? Max just gotten so good in the span of one game. It's not funny. I can't even keep up. Twitch chat apparently has just given him like
always right.
8 wins in a row in one game. What are you talking about? I know nothing, man. Nothing. I'm not talking about anything. I'm gonna have this post-show meeting is gonna be fun.
I don't know what's in the water. I don't know what's happened between weeks, but you guys are taking shots left, right, and center. Everyone's just going at it tonight.
Oh, there's a lot. There's only one person that's gone for order. Who was that?
Yes.
Was that you,
That was Rusty.
That was,
That was
Rusty.
actually me. Like, prediction score aside, that was who I went for. I went for order. I think, based on even what I said in the pre-game about Gravitas, right? I think that they're actually very beatable. I think the recipe has shown that you get rid of their comfortable picks and you play it towards topside, you can very easily win.
Okay. So, do you think there's going to be anything curious coming out of the vetoes? Do you think we're going to see Kevy on that Vi again, or do you think he's going to go to something a bit more meta this time? What are our thoughts on that?
Probably not the Vi style. I would rather actually see the Nocturne Twisted Fate again from them. So you can very easily play towards topside. That's what I'd be hoping to see anyway.
Okay. What about you, Jordan? Are you expecting anything curious to come out? Do you think we're going to see Akano back on that volley again?
I mean, I don't know that I'm specifically looking towards the jungle. I mean, I think for me, the LeBlanc is definitely a talking point. We've seen Kyosei on that one quite a lot for Gravitas and having a degree of success there. So, at the very least, I think for me, that's probably the one that I'm looking towards. If we get a ban through from Order, I'd probably be pretty happy to see that.
Oh, I have a really good idea. Well, everyone's really excited to get into the game, but I'm going to make sure I'm not going to press the button to start Champ Select yet, just to piss you all off in Twitch chat. Now, we do have, however, another quiz. And Nat, I'm going to grab this microphone here.
Yeah.
Pretend this is the microphone. Catch it. Ready? Whoop.
Yep, yeah, I got it. Oh, got it.
Great catch. Beautiful, Nat. Well done.
Alrighty.
Now, you've got the mic. Go.
Yeah, I do. So we're going to obviously do the ability quiz again that you already said, Mac. But I picked Zed, I think. I don't know. I chucked a few different champions at production, and it was Zed. So I'm glad we're on the same page. We went with that one. So I got my little sheet here prepared. Flatten it out with all the abilities. If you guys want to start, you can start wherever you want. Let's shake it up. Let's start backwards. Let's start with the ultimate.
Is it Deathmark?
It definitely is. That's a point for you. You're good, Jordan.
I need my
You're
pen
good.
through
Easy
it.
clap.
Do I have
That's the only one I'm going to get,
threw
by
your
the way.
pen
So,
away.
you know, I've done well to begin strong.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure I'm going to be ending poorly. But we'll
All
see
right.
how we go.
The ZE.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is E the...
He shifts in his shadow, so I'm going to say shadow shift.
It's the
Ooh,
circle
close.
slash.
Is that?
If you take
the
if you
W
take
is the
half
shadow shift.
if you take half of Jordan's answer and you
Shadow
take half
slash.
of Russ, yep,
Yeah.
Yes, we're getting it. We're getting it done. Let's
that
go.
was really good.
Jordan.
The W.
Well, see,
Shuriken.
is
toss.
No, the W is
No, that's
the jump,
that's
right?
Q.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So that must be like shift or dash or transport or
Is it shadow as well?
swap.
It does have shadow in it, yes.
Shadow assault?
No,
Shadow step?
shadow's the second word.
Swap shadow. Jump
No.
shadow.
No, it doesn't start with an S. The first word starts with an L.
Leap. It's definitely not that. L.
Yeah.
Last shadow?
Opposite of dying.
The
Living
last
Shadow.
shadow is a
Shadow.
famous esports
Living
commentator.
shadow.
Yes. I said it
Yep.
first. Go, Mac. I
Your
got a point.
Q. Mac almost said it. It's something shuriken.
Shuriken something, yeah.
It
Shadow
does-
shuriken.
No,
Assassin
no.
Shuriken.
Edgelord shuriken.
no. What you use to shave your face with.
Razor.
shuriken.
Yeah, good work.
Who said it first?
That
I
was
think that was a combined effort.
Okay,
Yep.
we get half
A lot of
point
these
each.
have been a combined effort, to be
Yeah.
fair.
yeah, and then I think we're not even go for the passive because I really don't think you're gonna get it and I don't know how to explain it, so we'll just show. Contempt
Definitely
for the
wouldn't have got
weak.
that.
Yeah.
Which does
Contempt
make
for the
sense now
weak.
that I know its name, though, because it does bonus
Ooh.
damage below 50% HP on someone. So
Well,
if
there
you're
you go.
weakened, he hurts you.
Oh,
There you go. I
there
thought I'd do a little bit of a family-friendly one that I definitely wouldn't be able to guess, so I made sure I made you guys guess it instead.
You had good hints. That's the only takeaway for me because I don't think we would have got those without them.
Yup.
I
Yeah.
like to think I'm a whiz at charades and taboo.
Yeah, well, I think you did a much better job at hosting that one than Jordan did earlier, Nat. So
Hang on, just 'cause we
congratulations
couldn't
on
get
that.
mine.
Jordan, you'll get your word in a second. For now, let's hear from Order before we jump into Champ Select.
I think everyone was pretty upset after our Legacy loss. Like it really sucks to lose to like bad teams. What made it worse was that we sort of did it to ourselves. Like it wasn't like Legacy like played extremely well or anything like that. Like guys, we just played really bad and like our draft prep was really bad. our gameplay was really bad. Like no one had any idea what they were doing in game, and like Puma's put it like really well. Like we just didn't know what to do to win on the day.
Puma, Violet to pick up first flopper. Here comes the TP. Maximize jumping in. Q1, Q2 finds a kill. Takes out Babib. Now looking for a second kill. Maximize is huge. Are they going to try and donate him the triple kill? No, he's just going to recall and ensure that Kama can pick up a kill too. Top lane, mid lane, order fed.
Yeah. Oh, they're diving.
Oh, Lisa just going to full on commit. There's the depth charge onto 2 people. Follow there by the Ruthless Onslaught. Looking to lock and piece. And they're going to find them. Chungy's dead. They're going to find a second as Puma's removed. Violet comes up huge. They both find doubles.
We had a pretty massive meeting on the weekend before heading into practice, and sort of like sorted out everything that we want to see changed, like what we think everyone else's role in the team is, what we want our roles to be, and we sort of figured that all out. So heading to the next couple of weeks, we'll have direction in any game, like no matter what the state of the game is. I think there's a lot of games that we've had where we should have won. Like they've been very, very close games. I think our record, I believe we're at like 5-4 right now, which is really not what we want to see. We definitely think we should be having like at least 6, 7, maybe even 8 wins, because a lot of the games that we've had have come down to us just being like making stupid decisions, us not being able to close out with the advantages that we've had.
Basically gone.
It's going down fast, especially considering they don't have an AD carry. And here is the contest though from Mammoth. Maximize staying on. The steal is in from Goodo. Kevy was out of there. He didn't have smite available. Miscommunication maybe from Order, but that could well be the big throw.
This week is definitely really big for us. The first half of the split, we dropped both games to Chiefs and Pentanet, and I think that if we really want to cement ourselves as a top team, like we can't afford to go 0-2 against those teams again. That being said, I think our practice has been like really, really good. And I think that we have a fighting chance against both of the teams. So I think they'll both be really, really close matches. Yeah.
All right, Rusty, jumping into Champion Select Order versus Gravitas. We've got a few picks already up on the board. So for Order, they've gone for the Akali already. We've got Jinx and Thresh down in the bottom lane. And then for Gravitas on the other side of the coin, Viego, bit of a flex, could still really be anywhere. Ezreal obviously down for Thomas Shen, and then Camille more likely than not going up for Safa. Comfort Champion, we've seen him on that one before. Interesting first couple of rotations, now getting through the bans here. Tell me your thoughts as we stand heading into the final couple of picks.
I mean, currently my first big thought here looking at Order's bans is that they're just so heavily targeting Kiyose in mid lane that they're really trying to make him uncomfortable. It's not the first time that we've seen this, and we also saw that after like 5 mid bans, his default was Lissandra. So they are targeting every aspect of Kiyose's very existence. And to me, this is an indicator that Safa is going to be on the Camille and that Akana is on the Viego, and that Kiyose will be playing neither of those champions. So really am interested to see where he goes, and just, you know, regardless, the first 3 picks they have are really powerful. Order on the other side of the coin here have gone for a strong, just good scaling option in bot lane, and Max is most likely on that Akali top. So they're probably going to be playing a top to bottom style game you would expect, or working bottom to top. It'll have to go to Max at some stage, but you never want to let Puma get behind.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one thing that I want to note out of this draft is that Order did insta-ban the LeBlanc away from Kiyose. You obviously sort of mentioned that already, but just another talking point that we brought up in that pre-show. Seems that's ringing true for the teams here as well. Definite hatred towards the Enchanter supports as well on the side of Order, but they have locked in Xin and Jax here as well. So, interesting couple of picks coming through from them. This is going to be very much a run at the enemy team kind of composition from Order.
This kind of goes exactly against what I was expecting or wanting to see from Order when it came to the draft, though. Jordan, when I was saying perhaps your Twisted Fate Nocturne style composition for mid-top, not going to exist at all. Jax, I guess that does change the Akali towards mid lane. And Jax is a duelist into the Camille. So I think that the really cool adaptation that Order have made is they said, we know that Safa plays the Camille, and we know that he is going to be playing Camille into most likely the Jax then, because Jax can actually cancel the hookshot, can even out the dueling and the trading, and scales up probably, I want to say better, but it really is a skill matchup at all stages of the game. So Max taking the skill trade here up against Safa.
Yeah, the only other thing that we didn't get to talk about just yet before that went through was Rek'Sai being picked up by Gravitas would obviously confirm that the Viego's not going to be in the jungle. It's more likely than not going to go into the middle lane. I've seen Rek'Sai once so far from Akano this split. That was a game that seemed to go relatively okay for Gravitas, though they had the Aatrox in top and the Blanc in mid. So how much of that came down to the Rek'Sai and how much of that came down to the other two selections from the comforts of the likes of Safa and Kyosei? I mean, you'd have to go back and look at the game really to decide that. But yeah, I mean, an interesting couple of selections coming through here. I don't necessarily mind the Gravitas roster all that much, particularly given that they've gotten themselves onto some, you know, comfortable champions. Again, like even Ezreal for Thomas Shen is something that we've seen him on a little bit so far this split. The only real curveball, I think, is maybe that Viego in mid. Haven't seen that from Kyosei so far. The owner on Floppy as well is also a new pick this split. So a couple of new champions, a couple of comfort champions coming through. Overall, it doesn't look too shabby for them.
Yeah, I think it's an expectation to say that your mid laner should be able to play Viego in the same way that, like, if you're picking it early, it needs to be flexible in some way. And the ability to triple flex that is pretty important. So if that's where Gravitas are going to go, I guess the more interesting standout point to me is that it wasn't a blue side first pick by order, right? That they prioritized the Akali in that respect. So this is where I'm musing in my mind over the fact that perhaps they didn't know that Kyosei has been playing the Viego, or they just didn't expect it. You know, the confidence to be able to pick that one. Because ultimately, we see 5 bans go at the mid laner of Gravitas, and his champion was already picked. So if he's good on Viego, then they have just trumped the draft here, and Order have had a spanner thrown in the works big time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big change up from what we looked at last game, which was Legacy versus Chiefs, and I was sort of talking to Ceres about that, and I said, you know, why the Viego ban? Obviously expecting that the Chiefs are going to pick that one up, and he pretty much straight up said, yeah, like the champ's OP, more or less. Seemed to be the implication that I got from him, and, you know, definitely do see it kind of come through relatively late in the piece there, and so Order... Yeah, look, they might have bitten off a little bit more than they can chew, but for their own right, I mean, they've got tools to work with, like Puma on the Jinx. Actually, is not a champion that we've seen from him so far this split, but I also feel like Jinx is kind of one of those champions that is generally pretty easy to pick up. You know, if you're an ADC player, it shouldn't be anything too untoward. So compare, or sort of pair that rather with the Thresh, you should be able to get through lane relatively comfortably, and then you're going to be off to the races, right? In more ways than one when the Jinx starts to get rolling, assuming you don't get dove upon by what is quite, to be fair, a heavy dive composition from the Gravitas lads. All things considered, I mean, I do think both teams have quite a lot of skirmishing potential, so it should be quite an explosive game.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think explosive is a good way to explain this one. I know that Gravitas aren't afraid of a good scrap. And I know that Order, when they find their footing in a game, right, will always be looking for those plays themselves. So definitely a thing that I would be looking at for both these teams is how the early game plays out and just exactly how they start the scrappy style of League off, because it wouldn't surprise me if it was there.
All right, Rusty, what might be a good thing to do now while we do have a bit of time is actually to loop Omo into the conversation. We can perhaps do a double interview here, something that we don't often actually get the opportunity to do. But Omo, it's good to chat with you again. I guess I'll start things off with it being a tough week last week for you guys on the Order roster, obviously with the win coming against Mammoth, but a 1-2 scoreline in the Super Week. So I guess the first question from me is sort of how are the team bouncing back?
Yeah, it was a super rough week for us. Well, I think we kind of did learn some things from the losses, like Chungy mentioned. It did point out very clearly where we had some strengths and where we had some weaknesses in. I think we had a very good honeymoon period with Kevi, but now that that's over, we really need to double down on working hard to determine what we need to improve on going into playoffs.
And up against Gravitas today, it's an interesting matchup actually, given the fact that Gravitas have been looking really good actually so far this split, and that they are almost like your closest competitor, at least in terms of where they're sitting at the moment. Now, you do have the 1-0 record against Gravitas at the moment. Are you expecting this to be a relatively difficult game, or are you sort of coming into this with a high degree of comfort?
Well, if you asked us this question before the draft, then I would say yes, we did expect this to be quite a challenging one. But after the draft is done, I think we're pretty happy with how things turned out. I think this should be in the bag.
All right. Well, speaking to the draft, maybe this is actually a better question for you, Rusty. I suppose you know, you got the bigger brain than I do.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask Omo, first of all, the willingness to give away the Viego is the first thing that stuck out to me. I just wanted to ask towards that one, is it about, you know, Gravitas being more predictable with where that goes?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of expected the Viego to go solo lanes. Beyond that, I think it's more about our comfort with the champions that we picked rather than wanting to deny them of certain picks. It's more of what we wanted to play.
Okay, because in that same vein, right, I was having this conversation with Maximize earlier, and I did like the sentiment behind it, is removing comfort from Gravitas does seem like a viable way to perhaps put them on the back foot in the game. But it feels like here they do have a lot of comfortable picks for themselves, right? So did that plan kind of change mid-draft where you're like, actually, Jax exists here and it's like the best possible angle?
We were planning the Jax counterpick for the Camille quite a while ago, and this is something we have practiced in scrims and Maximize is very comfortable in. I think we did deny a lot of comfort picks from Kiyose, and I think that that's the key to how Gravitas has been getting a lot of success through their mid jungle. So giving away things like Camille, I don't think we're too worried about if we have an answer for it.
All right, well, hoping that you do have a few answers for the Momo. I'm sure this is going to be an important matchup for you boys. I'm going to end it there and wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.
Cheers. All right, Rusty, I think we are moments away from getting into the game. I'm still keeping an eye on things in the lobby, and we're getting through things pretty nicely. Just to recap things, actually, one that we didn't really talk too much to was that it's a full AD team comp for Gravitas. So interested to see how that sort of does pan out. You don't really have that massive tanky presence actually on the side of Order, so maybe it's not going to be a huge concern. But it is always something to note when you do see that sort of coming through.
And actually, so it kind of is still a big issue. And just looking at champions, so for example, you're a full AD composition. Doesn't matter if Viego gets a reset on an AP champion, right? Because then suddenly Viego could still pop off doing magic damage. But all of the champions on Order's side that he's most likely to kill are going to be physical damage as well. Like Harley's one of those potential options, but the basic spells aren't going to do insane amounts of damage. A lot of it's ult combo. So I think that Order will be pretty happy with the outcome of this draft, considering that, yes, it's mostly physical damage on the side of Gravitas. And even though there's no tanks really there for Order, plated steel caps value is currently, the stocks are through the roof right now.
Yep.
And all of the small amounts of armor that these champions will be able to build, even Maximize just pressing his ultimate, it's going to be pretty significant in this game. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they pull this one off, because at the same time, Jordan, while you can go the plated steel caps route, there is a lot of crowd control on Gravitas' side, so it might feel bad to cop the full duration stuns.
One thing that I'm looking at actually in the load screen, we can't see it on this graphic here, but the rune choice for Beats, he's gone for Aftershock as opposed to Guardian on that Thresh. Now, I think there's an argument for both of the rune choices here, but what do you think about Aftershock in this game going up against what is quite a heavy dive contingent from Gravitas?
Yeah, I personally, when I'm against an Ezreal, I don't see Guardian doing a lot for laning phase, because an Ezreal Q doesn't proc the shield. It's actually very annoying in terms of how that interaction works. And Leona, as a champion, just by design, is very committal. So whenever I'm playing Thresh against a champion like a Nautilus or a Leona, or someone that when they hook, it is on, I will always do Aftershock. And again, because that's a matter of, if I get hooked, it's not as big a deal. If my AD carry gets hooked, it's obviously going to be a bigger deal, but then you position yourself in lane against the Leona. So that's what I would like to see from Beats anyway. He'll be able to play the bushes against Floppy, while Puma plays in the lane against the Ezreal.
I do like the Thresh versus Leona matchup. I think it's always a fun one to play with the Flay interaction. Either way, we are going to be talking about everything that's going on in this game, not just the bot lane, and we do jump straight in. Interesting times, actually, because again, now we have already gone through that coach interview. We can talk about how these two teams are setting things up and where the jungle pathing is looking towards. We've got already a little bit of a shove into the topside jungle there from Gravitas, just to get a ward down on the blue buff. So they'll be very aware of Kevy's movements for the next minute or so.
It's a pretty early ward though, so we'll see if he goes from red to blue buff or if he just starts at the blue buff. That's really all the information that you're going to get. Chungy's about to place the ward, actually in a very comfortable position for himself. 1 minute 30 seconds, that would reveal pretty successfully the pathing of Akano, and does actually give more information, I would say, than the ward of Gravitas. In saying that, it was a cheeky ward placed by Chungy, where in comparison, Safa and Kiyose had to move together because of how early they placed it.
Yeah, more or less achieves the same result, but maybe just a little bit better execution on the Order side. Overall, not a massive concern early on in the game. You should still be getting the info on the jungles either way. Maximize bullying Safa off of that top wave early on in the piece. And I feel like the Jax and the Camille lane matchup is something that we talked about a lot in Split 1. Not something that we've seen actually too much here in Split 2.
Yeah, you haven't seen a whole lot of it. One of the most curious interactions in the lane is how the Counter-Strike is going to be used at all times from the Jax, because that basically does determine how the lane goes. There will be a lot of early aggression up there between the two. But really, if Camille gets an auto attack off before the Counter-Strike, she's going to have enough resistances from the adaptive shield she gets on her passive to probably survive any kind of immediate trades from the Jax. But if he's able to Counter-Strike as the auto attack goes across, then there's no shield, there's no winning trade for the Camille. It's a very dicey, very skill-oriented lane for sure that requires some good reaction times and mechanics. And there's, of course, a lot more beyond what I just discussed. So that's just even one ability's interaction in that lane.
Well, that later ward coming through from Chungi is actually proving quite fruitful. Spots the Rek'Sai out again, and so Maximize knows that he's very, very safe up in that top lane. Interestingly, the Ignite TP taken by Maximize up there on Jax. I don't think we've mentioned that so far. A little bit more standard to come through for the Camille, but not often you see that for a Jax to sort of keep that presence there, matching it with the Camille. Obviously, he's got the ward hops available to him in terms of mobility, but still a little bit naked sometimes without the flash. Either way, it's an exchange of scuttle crabs as well for the two junglers. We get one apiece, heavy down towards the bottom side of the map, and Akano up towards top.
And ultimately, we're just seeing waves bounce at their appropriate times here also. You've got the Camille pushing top as the Rek'Sai's on the top side. You've got the Jinx who just got a turret plate bottom as well, as the Xin Zhao is down in bottom lane, or bottom side of the map. So everything going very stock standard right now. A lot of this does come from where the vision was. Cute little auto attack there actually from Safa. That was a really good mastery of the champion showing off there. But ultimately nothing doing. Just looking towards the first big things that can happen here is both junglers are just going to be full clearing their way to level 4, maybe level 6 looking for ganks. Rek'Sai does farm pretty successfully, and so does the Xin Zhao early. But with the first purchases, they're going to be deadly if they get a gank off, right? Working towards some lethality or perhaps the Iron Spike Whip for Akano. Same thing for Kevi. Means that they're going pickaxes and longswords, so the damage is devastating.
Still seems to be a slow but steady game through for both teams. Akano heading towards his jungle again initially, although he's pathing in toward mid now, so I'm keeping an eye on that. Down in the bot lane, a little bit of pressure building with the bigger wave headed in the direction of Order, but I think Thresh should have no problems clearing this one out, and already you can see the rockets thinning the wave out quite nicely. Backfiring a few points of damage back in the direction of Thomas Shen. Nice little freeze potentially getting put through here for Order. Teleport forced in the mid lane. So Kyosei comes back early on in the piece. First fire comes through for him. The Dragon started up early with the priority that's been built in both bot and mid for Gravitas.
Yeah, Teleport basically securing that one as well. No chance for Order to respond whatsoever. You've currently got a bit of counter jungling that will happen as the trade. Max fails the Counter-Strike combo there, so exactly as you would expect as lane interactions go, Safa immediately punishes and just chips him down a little bit.
Oh,
nice
Beats, very cheeky little death sentence flay right into the Trompers. And Thomas Shen forced to flash away. Beats goes to follow on through. Had the lantern behind him. Puma gets baited in. Will at least get the kill, and with the result of that, gets the passive. Runs quickly away off the back of his flash as well.
Floppy might find the engage here though. Has
Floppy
flash.
does have flash available, and it's blade dodged. Well played, and maybe Puma is going to be eating his words because Akano puts him down.
I mean, that's a great dodge from Puma, though, because it forces a second flash out of Akano and means that the jungler of Gravitas has a harder time looking for future ganks. The mistake was there for Puma, though, being where he was in the first place, considering, oh, if they've based, I can push this wave in, and it makes it so that Thomas Shen will miss less, and we've just won bottom lane from this trade. Not going to be the case.
Well, Safa recognizes he's in a bit of trouble, but there was really no gank going there, unfortunately, for Maximize and Kevi. Safa very, very quick to understand the position that he was in. Yosei looking for a fight against Chungi. Dark Passage is down, though, from Beats, and so he won't be too concerned. Very, very tight. Looks like the chat is with you, Rusty.
Just barely. It also means that Mac is with me just barely.
Yeah.
In terms of his predictions, as he is following the rules of the chat. Just briefly as well, that fight that happens in bottom lane was very heavily skewed towards two different mindsets there from Order. I don't think Puma was going to commit to the kill. I think he was actually happy with the trade overall.
Yeah.
Beats throws the lantern, says, we are going. And I think with how slow the reactions were perhaps there from Order, that could have been a kill more successfully. But definitely on 2 different pages at the forefront of that play.
Yep. Beats definitely saw blood, and Puma wasn't as interested, but overall, could have worked out worse. Almost thought there was a world where Beats just flashes forward, Puma doesn't follow on that lantern, and then Beats dies for nothing, for free. And it's unfortunate really for Order, isn't it? Because that fight started so nicely for them. It was the perfect setup, and then it ends up actually being overall a less than favorable situation. So you do feel a little bit robbed out of that one if you're the Order bot lane, especially if you're Beats. Gets that death sentence through onto an Ezreal. Doesn't happen every day.
So just looking at this top lane trade, of course, you've got a Kano nearby. That Q in could be an indicator, but Safa is going to hold strong. The difference between these champions right now is that Maximizer's ult is non-committal. Safa's ultimate is usually more of an all-in approach. And with the hovering of the jungler here, Max has to play this one out expertly and wait for his own jungler to make the play. Times it well.
Or does he?
Ooh.
The
That'll be
ignite.
one tick.
Oh, it does
Got him.
actually tick enough. I think it was a corrupting pot in there as well that helped out.
Jeez, I mean, that's just a cheeky solo kill in top lane. You don't expect it to happen as quickly as it did, but that's the damage of a Jax. Max is stuck in the wall. Get him out of the wall. What's happened to Max?
I've never seen that before.
He's an ornament.
I've actually never seen that before.
Herald has turned the Jax into a lantern.
Do we have a replay of that?
His weapon's relevant, at least.
Well, I'm not sure what they're going to do about this. Can he? I wonder if he can just Counter-Strike. If he can just jump out of it.
This is... I've never seen this happen in League of Legends. That is so funny. That has to be the issue, first of all.
Of course, yeah, of course.
I don't think anyone else here is surprised by what's going on. For those wondering if there's a pause for any specific reason, you're looking at it.
Yeah.
That's the funniest thing I've seen in a while.
I'm gonna have a little bit of a look back here and see if I can watch it in the in-game client. I mean, he just gets charged into the wall, doesn't he?
Yeah.
No, actually, no. That's not even what happens now that I'm looking at it. He tries to use his Q over the wall. So he tries to jump in on top of the Rift Herald as it charges, and it kind of like boops him back into the wall, and he just gets stuck there.
So it seems, yeah.
That's interesting. Very interesting indeed. Yeah, he definitely can't move. He's sitting there for a little while. Anyway, we'll see how that one gets sorted out. I'm sure the admins are working on that. But in the meanwhile, I can confirm, by the way, that it was a corrupting pot charge as well as the Ignite that got that extra sort of little tick damage through.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the Ignite would have been enough on its own. Don't know why I say that, but I think it's just a feeling. Sometimes you get that feeling when you've been playing thousands of hours of League of Legends. But yeah, I think the corrupting pot definitely helped out. So well done from Maximize to get that solo kill. Just a bit of a cheeky one to start things off in that top lane, and makes the matchup a little more difficult for Safa.
Yeah, and like we were highlighting, just the volatility of that top lane matchup is going to be cause for concern for both top laners, right? And that's why you're expecting junglers to be hovering around the area. And even just prior to that solo kill, you saw a Kano nearby, and of course you now see that they're moving towards the Herald immediately after the kill, so both junglers being on the top side of the map. At the end of the day, with the volatility of that lane, this is a dangerous situation now to be Gravitas.
Indeed. Mac, let's get you back into the conversation here. It's been a relatively smooth day so far, so we haven't had to call you back onto the show, but here we are. Have you ever gotten stuck in the Baron Wall before?
No, but I have ran into a wall. I didn't get stuck in it though. It did hurt, and I feel sorry for Maximize at the moment.
I remember that. That was on stream, wasn't it?
On stream? Oh, I did do that on stream.
You don't remember that one?
Yeah, I do remember that one. It's hazy. I don't know why. But it was a good time. That was a good time. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about how good it is running into walls. So Jax, that's one of those weird interactions in the game that you probably would never have seen, and now we've all seen it in a competitive game, and is probably going to be fixed. Like, the thing is, we don't know, like, if you let that game play on, could he just queue back out of it and jump back onto his teammate or something? Like, really, that could be a question asked. Or is it
but you don't want to like unpause here and then have him not be able to do that and then repause again. It's just like, yeah. Either way, I think
Yeah.
it's going to be a reset. But, you know, we'll have to see. How
I think
this
it's
does pan out.
better safe than sorry because
Yes,
there's just the sake of priority as well. Like, think of the time that could be wasted just waiting for a spell Mac.
Yeah, 100%. You know, those 2 seconds. Ooh, it could be the game changer.
It's actually 3 seconds before his Q comes back up.
Oh,
if
well,
you really wanted to know.
There you go. Just from where we are. Now, someone else that wants to join the conversation is Nat, because she's lonely down on the side lanes and the game's paused, so nothing's happening. So it's boring down near the bleachers.
It is a little bit. You know, you guys always get to have your little podcast going on when we get into the longer pauses, and I just sit there chuckling to myself. I'm like a live audience for you guys.
Yeah.
No one else, though, on the stream gets to hear it, but I am almost 100% of the time chuckling in their ear.
It's good, though, because it's not canned laughter. It means that we have actual approval, you know? It's not sympathy laughing.
That is true. It is not sympathy laughing. Although I don't know how much I count, considering I do chuckle at quite a few things.
Yeah, I've noticed you like laugh very nervously every time Jordan tries to make a joke. I don't know why that is.
Maybe that one's more of the, I think it's funny, maybe I don't fully understand it, or maybe I just don't fully agree with it. You'll never know.
Wow, that's toxic.
No, it's only because one time a wise man told us we are not cringe, we are PogChamp, and then Jordan has just taken that as I can say whatever I want now and be as mean to everyone as I can.
I am
be.
PogChamp. That's fine. Thank you, Mac. Appreciate it.
Can you do your best PogChamp impression?
No.
Good? Oh.
Unfortunately not.
I will.
I actually
Okay.
have a picture of it, though. I'm sure I can find it.
That's really good. If Twitch is looking for a new PogChamp emote face, that's it right there.
I gotcha sorted. Rusty, your turn. Come on.
No, I'm not doing it. That is
No.
absolutely...
Oh, you're always the guy.
Okay, here's the thing, right? You're not going to make me do horse blow, so why would you expect I would do this instead?
What? It's a moment in time, and everyone's going to love it, and then you have a new emote for your Twitch stream. Come on. Look, it's just like this.
Nah.
Come on.
No, that's not going to help me at all. This is just adding pressure, man.
All right, Jordan, relieve some pressure. Come on, your turn. Yes! Love it.
Cringe.
Yeah,
That's
so-
see,
amazing.
that is not PogChamp. That is cringe. That's what that is.
That was literally PogChamp.
No, that was cringe.
This wasn't cringe. Nat, you going to do one? Or have you
I
already
could do
got a
one.
Poggyman?
I've done a few PogChamps before. I have it on my thumbnails on my YouTube video, but I do the whole...
Oh, beautiful.
They're the ones I do. Mine's like not as great. It's more like a shocked PogChamp.
Okay,
think is what I
and
go for.
now so Rusty, we're going to do this like we're holding your hand. I'm going to count to 3.
No.
We're all going to do it at the same time.
No.
Are you ready?
No.
Are you ready, Rusty?
I'm not
Rusty, you
doing
look
it.
We're gonna look
pretty
in the
ready.
direction
I'm
of
not doing
Rusty
it.
as well.
One,
Yeah.
I'm
ready,
not doing
Rusty?
Which
Two,
Rusty?
are you ready, Rusty?
No.
3, are you ready, Rusty? And go.
No, I'm not doing it. This is really weird.
We all did it in your direction as well, so you just
I
made
got
it
no
more
laugh at that
weird. All right, I'm trying to keep it chill. I'm trying to, max chilling here as well. Just on the DoorDash LCO, just waiting for the game to start. All right, exclamation DoorDash in chat if you're hungry, if you want to kill the time, do exactly what Dave Harris did. Order yourself a lovely, scrumptious HSP, and you too can chill all night long.
Should we do a champion?
I was about to say that
guessing game?
ability. Yes, I have a few off the
Have
top
you
of
got
my
one?
head.
Have you got one?
Do
I
we
thought
have
production was
do we have
making
more?
us one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was production making one?
I mean,
Otherwise,
they've definitely got an issue on their hands. So.
okay. Does anyone else want to have any on the top of their head that they want to go? Otherwise, I do have.
Go
at
for it,
least
Nat. It's all yours. You did the
4
best
lined up.
Four lined up.
yeah.
Oh my
Just
God,
Come
all right.
prepared.
All right,
I'm so prepared. It's
I'd
not
throw
even
this
funny.
microphone to you again, but I also just don't want to have to get up to get another pen.
That's
so
okay.
here's a figurative one.
That's okay. Do you want to support?
Yeah, let's do a support.
Yeah. Let's go with Lux. Rusty did bring her up earlier.
Okay, I know the ultimate.
Try to.
Okay, we're gonna start with passive this time. I started with ultimate for Zed, so we'll start with passive this time.
Something to do with light.
They all have something to do with light.
Yeah.
You are right. Yeah.
That is the
Hence Lux.
champion's theme, yes.
I'll taboo it. The thing that comes out of light bulbs, but obviously can't be light because I said the word light.
Heat.
Spark.
When something lights up, maybe that's a better way to put it.
Illumination.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that actually.
Yeah.
But
Is
you're
that the
Um,
passive?
Yep.
That's
yeah,
a passive. Is
right.
illumination.
Yeah.
Then her Q.
Light binding.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, got that
Is it
one.
light
Easy.
binding? Binding light? What are the 2 ways?
Well, yeah, one of the two. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Might
it's
be
binding
spot on.
light. I think it's binding light.
Binding
yeah.
light. Then her next one,
The W.
Is it,
Yeah.
That's the
I'm
shield.
It's her
guessing,
shield,
but
but
is
it's
it-
not shield.
Is it prismatic barrier?
Yes.
That could
Yeah.
be it. Yeah.
Yep. Then her E. I don't know how I'm gonna.
I don't know this one. This one I don't know.
So it's 2 words. The second one being the opposite of multiples.
Oh, it's singular. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Loose
Yep.
singularity.
Yeah, loose
Yes,
singularity.
yeah,
nice,
that's it.
Nice.
Yep. And then her ultimate, which I think most of you guys will know.
Final spark.
That's
But
it.
Or
should be
Finalis.
Finalis for
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
It
That
was
one
originally
way
in
better.
German.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
something like that. But it pretty much translated to
Final spark.
Final Spark.
Yeah.
Well, I hated this one because now Jordan's in front of me with an extra 4 points.
Surely I get a bonus point for knowing that one off the top of my head.
Well, maybe, Nat,
We
if
didn't
you
know
want some
that.
points, we need to get some other champs and other people
True.
asking the questions so you can
Very,
get
very
some
true.
points on the board. Speaking of, though, ladies and gents, we are going to go to a short break before we have another champion quiz, and hopefully then the game will be back, so don't go too far.
Check your facts and get it straight. I promise you it will be worth the wait. This altered state. Can you hear it louder now? Trying hard to knock us down. Noise is getting louder now, but nothing gonna take us out. We in this altered state, it's all blurry. Don't matter when we gonna wait. I ain't worried. Stay with me in this altered state. We all blurry, and I don't wanna wait. I don't wanna wait. Just stop.
No eye contact, like you throw me around. Baby, can you see me? Baby, can you see me? As you don't call me, I don't wanna be awake for this. Shining my eyes and it's for the best. I fucking hate when we go to shit. Hold out my eyes, look at me. Fucking pray this is all a dream. Tear my reality apart at the seams. Hold out my eyes, can you look at me? Baby, I've been begging you for weeks. Come on, make me feel something, please. You're making me feel so weak. Making me feel so weak. I was feeling so background, yeah. Didn't wanna make sense. I was feeling so helpless, yeah. That was who you were. Now I'm picking it up and I'm putting it down. Fuck around, how did you control? Yeah, how did you control? I don't know what I even want. The pay of place and it's too much. I do the shit, wanna rip on my guts. I do this shit and say I wanted you to. Do the plans that I fought for besides you. How you wreck my brain and split yourself in two. I don't know, tell me what's the truth. Hold out my eyes, look at me. Fucking pray this is all a dream. Tear my reality apart at the seams. Hold out my eyes, can you look
Welcome back to the DoorDash LCO. Ladies and gents, we will have the match ready momentarily. But before then, who's going to win after the draft? It's a question that we don't usually get to ask because we're not usually here. Are you happy with how you've picked your prediction in terms of how the draft has worked out for you? I'm going to ask Jordan first because, Rusty, we've heard a lot from you and anyway, Jordan, tell me how you're feeling.
Yes, I'm happy with the draft. As far as the game is going so far, I would say I'm a little bit concerned because Maximize getting that solo kill could lead to some big things for Order. But when I look at a composition that has both Viego and Ezreal in the roster, and even Camille up in the top lane for Safa, we know that's a comfort champion. I do feel like there's some pretty good stuff there for Gravitas. So I got to say, at least as far as the draft is concerned, I'm pretty happy with what Gravitas have got there. Yeah.
What about you, Nat? How you feeling with that Gravitas pick?
Yeah, pretty good. Only because, you know, Jax as a champion in my eyes is good, but not overpowered. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I were to put him on the same sort of level as Set or even a Viego, right? Like, I know they're not obviously always played in the same position. It just feels like the two that I just mentioned have way more impact than a Jax. So yeah, I think just because of that pick, I also have never seen Maximize on it personally, so I don't know how well he plays it, how impactful he's going to be, so we'll see.
I'm keen to see how it plays out because I haven't seen a Jax played in competitive League of Legends. Obviously, Jordan might hit me with, yeah, it used to be, you know, viable a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, like Worlds, 20-something.
Yeah, oh yeah.
2020.
At the same time. 2020. Was it actually picked at Worlds 2020?
Yeah, Bin plays
Probably
it.
every Worlds, actually, we've probably seen Jax.
Worlds finalist was playing it.
What was the Black Cleaver Worlds? Was that season 3 or season 4?
The stacking of it? Like stack cleaver?
Yeah. The OP Black Cleaver Worlds.
2 or 3.
I feel like that was a Jax one, although I can't really remember back that far. My brain's not that big. It was definitely not 2. It definitely wasn't 2.
3?
There you go. I've actually seen, I think Jordan's, Elfish Guy's first ever YouTube video was him playing on Jax. But that is something we can link in Twitch chat at some point because, ladies and gents, game's ready. Let's get back into the action.
For those of you wondering, I think that actually is now unlisted. But it was a video of me playing Jax. I'm surprised that Mac knows that. Anyway, we're back into the game now. Where we are is with the Rift Herald having been confirmed for Order. The kill that went through for Maximize also still there, so everything is as it should be. And we're back in the game, which is great to see.
Yeah, it is. It's good to see. Of course, we have released Max from his prison. He's good to go back towards top lane. Solo kill in hand, just in case anyone was worried about that. We didn't go back that far. We just see the Herald taken. Now things reset, things pan out. We probably should take stock on a more general level, given how long it's been since everyone has seen the champions. First and foremost, we've highlighted top lane, things going very well for Max. Kevy in the jungles had a pretty quiet one, where Akano did get his first blood down in bottom lane with an early gank. But bot lane's been going pretty well for Order, all things considered, barring that death of Puma after.
Beats. Got a bit of ward clearing now. Should alert Gravitas to the fact that there could potentially be a jungler headed in their direction, and so they are going to have Kano pathing down as well.
No teleports available bar Chungy, so this could work out for Order.
Beats doesn't quite get the playthrough perfectly, so we'll cop a lot of damage initially from that Leona. Thomas Shen, Arcane shifted forward, and as a result has to flash back on out, but cannot make it out alive. Puma chases him down, and that is a 3rd kill for the Jinx. A big power spike coming through for Order off the back of that.
Yeah, definitely. It was a late teleport, though, from Chungy, so he's not even going to be involved in the kill top lane.
Yeah, top lane we do have Hextep Ultimatum chucked in there by Safa, who is ultimately going to have to just exit swiftly.
I mean, that sums up top lane nicely, right? The skirmish goes heavily the way of Maximize, with Ignite as a disadvantage. So that was Safa engaging the fight with Ignite up. Top is devastating right now. You've got Viego coming up just to help catch this wave. Max should just be backing away. Will do his best to survive here. Kyosei may have a crack at this one, actually.
And we'll see if he can find him hidden inside that bush right now. Kyosei does use the route early, so Maximize will be able to walk out. No, maybe not. Flash forward from Kyosei. The ultimate was invested there as well, but that's all good.
Yeah, I mean, you take that 100%. Kyosei will be happy as a CS lead in mid lane, has an extra kill to boot. The teleport from Chungy to bot gives no dividends for himself. So mid lane is currently a significant difference in favor of Gravitas and is 100% that place to look at, right? There's no advantage top. That's really rough top. Mid is good for them. Of course, even gets Akali's ultimate there as Floppy was moving his way up there with Thomas Shen. But bottom's also a 3-in-1 Puma, who is a hyper carry player on a hyper carry with 3 kills. So right now, it is Kyosei against the world.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. Gravitas grab themselves a second dragon, so they've got that going nicely for them. But Floppy and Thomas Shen are in a spot of bother. Floppy showing some presence, and it actually forces Order to turn back around. Get out of there alive. That could have gone horribly wrong, though, for Gravitas, and they're going to lose their tower pretty early on in the piece. That's just even more gold going over to Puma.
I mean, that is effectively a 2v2 tower take, right? At 12 minutes. Essentially isolated. There's been jungle pressure and presence down there from some teleports, yes, but realistically, that's just the way it goes. Top will continue to highlight this because it can go from bad to worse quickly. The other thing that we really need to highlight here is the armor check, right? So Chungi doesn't choose to go towards the plated steel caps. He's actually gone for Sorcerer's Shoes, but gets an early Seeker's Arm Guard to go with his Oblivion Orb. So he's actually built in a very weird way, entirely about denying healing, denying his own death, and then just doing a bit of extra base damage with the Sorc Shoes. It just means he's going to be quite a while away from any first item completions. Compare that to Kyosei Jordan, who has the completed Divine Sunder right out of the gates. A very different style of league here, but expect more armor across the board.
Yeah, it's always going to be an awkward spot to be in when you have to sort of half buy multiple items. It takes you a long time to hit those power spikes, particularly considering neither of these are headed towards a mythic item either. So that's also still far, far away for Chungi right now. But Gravitas have got 4 players up in the top side of the map. Solar Flare connects nicely, and the ultimate from Kevy is not nearly enough to keep him alive. So he's done so. Yosei did teleport up to the top wave as well. He's going to give a bit of room for Chungi.
Yeah, it's going to buy some nice space in mid. Now that was interesting because I feel like you get a really good perspective on where Order's priorities lie. There is a Xin Zhao and a Jin caught out of position. Who do you give the lantern to? Is it the one closest to the enemies? Or is it the one who has Cleanse and Flash available? And he throws it to the Jinx so the Xin Zhao dies. I mean, that's a statement, right? We don't actually care if Kevy lives or dies. We need the Jinx to stay alive. That's what matters.
I think that's fair enough. 150 gold shutdown. It's not the biggest of shutdowns just yet. There's a nice death sentence onto Thomas Shen. Can Floppy bail him out of here? Can't imagine he will be able to. The heal not enough to keep him alive against the Super Mega Death Rocket, and all of a sudden, things shift back in the favor of Order in the top lane.
Yeah, it's also a long lane bot, right? On a flipped map, maximized with a lot of freedom to push in to really keep Safa at bay. Teleport's going to be available for both top laners. In about 5 seconds, Safa will have his up and at the ready. But I do suspect this will just be another tower taken in favor of Order. And what was a 2,000 odd gold lead can get a lot closer to being higher. And Puma's starting to really run away with this game on the back of some nice hooks, honestly, more than anything else. Beats is having a blinder.
Yeah, got to feel a bit hard done by as well if you're Gravitas here, seeing the break coming up. Not the soul that you'd want. Would have wanted the ocean, if anything. But they're going to get the cloud instead, so having already managed to grab those 2 early dragons, I don't feel like it's going to be as impactful as it might have been. Overall, Order will set their sights on the Rift Herald. Still a minute and a half away from the dragon, so it's actually pretty much perfect timing to be picking up this Rift Herald. You can plop that one down in mid, and then start to force some pressure in that area of the map while the dragon spawns, and 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, put themselves in really good stead for this one. Kevy be pretty happy with the spawning of that Scuttle Crab also. Things panning out very nicely for the jungler of Order. After the reset, playing towards bot side on the deploy. This is what you'd expect to see. In saying that, Maximize is currently staying on the bottom side of the Rift. So I'm wondering if they'll flip their solo laners to put Chungi bot side. But I think... Oh, hang on.
Yeah, here comes Safa, and Puma is most definitely caught. Cleanse doesn't quite get him out of there alive. Floppy charges forward as well. Stopwatch keeping Beats alive for now, and Chungi teleports back in, looking for trades. They're going to get them. Floppy also falls. A double kill for Chungi is massive news for Order. And Gravitas, it looked so good for them for a moment. But what a great response from Order.
Yeah, I mean, Kyose's looking like a powerhouse, but it's not going to have enough to execute, not going to have enough damage to reset. It is Order once again. You know, this was a reactive play, but they put their best foot forwards, right? They teleport in, they have 5 strong, and they make a positive trade for themselves out of a negative situation. Puma may not be the entire team. Again, Chungi with those 2 kills puts himself in very good stead.
Yeah, Justice Dragon is spawning here as well. Order in full control of the mid lane. Heavy does have the Rift Herald available. Pops it down. Interesting engage. This is a bit messy on all sides. Floppy taking the brunt of the damage right here. Akano only just arriving. Gravitas will be shaking their heads after that one. That is a very poor passage of play. Rift Herald does get the charge, but deletes it straight away. And it's towards the Dragon that Order turns their attention.
After the mid lane outer turret goes down as well, right? So even insult to injury in this game. This is a very good situation for Order. For Gravitas, the Dragon was a pretty big win condition for them overall, right? Get the soul. Put yourself perhaps in a better position to team fight. Reduce the ultimate cooldowns for Floppy and Thomas Shen. Even Kyose would be pretty happy with that one. But the end result is just further and further ahead. The side of Order start to crawl. 3 kills going the way of Chungi in this one.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about Puma and getting those kills, and I quietly mentioned that Beats has been having a blinder. Well, I'm thinking that if this is an Order win, he's already the player that delivered the first 17 minutes of the game. Not that it's over, but he's been going nuts.
Yeah, indeed. And it's not just 3 kills on Chungi, it's actually 7 Darksteel stacks as well. So he had that item since the start of the game pretty much. We were talking about his itemization, and those kills definitely help out. Not only because he gets the Darksteel stacks, but just because he had an awkward buy kind of halfway between a bunch of items, and now he's actually starting to work on his mythic item with that Leeching Leer being picked up. So
yeah.
3-0 and 1. I mean, there was initially just the threat coming from the Jinx. Now it feels like there's a big threat coming from the Akali as well.
Yeah, and the Jax starts to add up massively in those side lanes, which, you know, every passing minute is a minute that the Jax gets scarier.
There's the Riftmaker.
Yeah, Riftmaker completed. And I do like that you brought that point up as well. The kills have done so much to help this Akali with such a terrible build situation, right? So many component items and the high cost of an item completion. Still at this point, I'm hoping to see the shield go in instead of 2 control wards would be nice. Akano.
Yeah, does dodge the W, so might be able to get out of here alive. Akano decides to get aggressive onto Kevi. Kyose having some problems up against Puma, jumps straight into a trap, gets deleted by the rocket, and now the rest of Gravitas are in no man's land. They've got absolutely nowhere to go. Puma's getting excited, charging forward. There's a kill for Beats, but they're all really going the way of Puma. A 3K for him, 1 for Beats, and it might well be a 4K. Puma wants them all, won't quite get it. Safa walks away, and Maximize in the meanwhile is having a grand old time in bot.
Yeah, that wasn't even 5 people strong from Order. I mean, like a book, Kyose just gets completely downloaded, goes into the traps, flashes into the Jinx ultimate, and that's just insult to injury. Puma definitely going insane in that last fight. Max going to disengage before the turret drops. I mean, wow, from bad to worse for Gravitas.
Yep, just 3 really, really rough fights in a row, and what was looking like a game that was hanging in the balance has now tipped so dramatically in the direction of Order that I wonder if Gravitas is going to be able to come back from this. I mean, a 7-2 bot lane Jinx and then Kali in the mid lane. Just look at how much work Puma's able to get done here. Kyose is being zoned pretty much solo by the Jinx and then deleted on his own.
Yeah. I mean, ults into the traps, flashes into the Jinx ultimate. Meanwhile, the rest of the map, you've got Chungi doing some serious damage. Kevi really is just doing what he can and buys as much time as he can, but amazingly, right, because of how well the rest of Order are doing, he doesn't die because they've bought him space to get out, lock it to keep him alive, and, you know, if that was a Kraken Slayer proc, Safa also dies there. That's how close that one was.
Yeah, 3 items completed already for this Jinx. Oh, I've only got 1.5 right now for Thomas Shen on the Ezreal, and you've spoken about, you know, cheaper items maybe coming through for the Ezreal. That's beneficial, but doesn't really matter too much when the gold deficit is more than 3,000. It's actually almost 4,000 more gold for the Jinx right now than it is for the Ezreal. So that's the story that really writes itself.
I mean, you're starting to get the first mythic of the game here for Floppy. I believe he's the last person on the Rift who didn't have one. Poised to fight is not something that I would be avidly saying if I was Gravitas, but options starting to get limited. So you may be looking for an angle to fight sooner rather than later. You don't want to give Baron for free. There's definitely the potential for making picks with your composition. Easier said than done. Of course, right now, you kind of have to do that when you've got a Jax threatening side lane turrets, because one wave, that Inner falls, and then he's actually just threatening an inhibitor.
Yeah. Akano's definitely looking for it, so is Floppy. They're just charging forward, but Order are giving them too much respect in the middle area of the map, and obviously that's opening things up dramatically for Maximize. Xapha doesn't feel like he can match the Jax, I suppose, and so isn't spending a lot of time in those side lanes. Also, obviously, got Akali up in the top side of the map as well, so even a 1-3-1 feels incredibly difficult to deal with right now for Gravitas.
Yeah, it really is crippling their ability to make plays. A lot of this does come down to if Floppy can find an amazing angle, right? If the team of Gravitas can get some good vision in a location, they can set up, find the bush or find the line in the sand that they can actually draw. Because as it stands, it's just spreading them thin is making it impossible. So they're choosing not to be spread thin, they're choosing to group, but then they're losing in those side lanes for it. The 1-3 working in effect as you would want to see it work.
Slow but steady choke from Gravitas. Order's definitely sinking the boot in. Another nice reset coming through after they managed to get their second dragon. Magi is completed for Chungi. Definitely a talking point.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the items for a second there as well, Jordan. There is now armor starting to be really purchased for the side of Order, and this was an existing concern that you brought up in draft. A full AD composition of Gravitas is now 7,000 gold behind. So really, in this situation, when you're looking at ways to come back, there's less. When you go into a draft phase and you're looking at your full AD composition, you're saying, okay, we have some true damage. What really matters is that we snowball early, right? Because then it's harder for them to build resistances where ahead we can snowball the game and keep the pace high. But from behind, you have to play actually picture perfect.
I just feel like Chungi is toying with them, but he might have bitten off more than he can chew. The CC layering, not quite good enough. Zenith Blade didn't land, but still, Kyosei gets the job done, and Maximize is just teleported to his death. One would think. Prowler's Claw and Ultimate through from Akano. And that is another dead Order player. The chase is on. Xapha is there. Kevy the focus right now for Gravitas. And they must win this fight, but you're exactly right. Puma, an ever-present threat, starts to turn things back on its head. Super Mega Death Rocket is just enough to put Floppy to a one-shot. And ultimately, Gravitas walks away with a 2-for-2 trade. Granted, they do get a couple of shutdowns. But another kill for Puma.
I mean, that's a win for Gravitas, you would have to say, right? They get the kills, they set themselves up nicely on the map, they buy a fraction of control around the Baron buff that will exist for some time. But still, you've got the threat of Pumayushi over there just going insane on his AD carries. And then in that vein, right, Beats hitting the hooks, Kevy's going to be impossibly tanky for them to deal with. So even with the picks, they feel threatened to push beyond that, and they give one back to Puma still. Look, you take the wins that you get if you're Gravitas at this point, but that hope that is fleeting, that needs to happen more than once.
Kills went on to Viego and Rek'Sai for those shutdowns, so the worst benefactors. Order looking to control the map once again, clearing out some vision on the top side of jungle. Feels very tentative from Gravitas, working together, roaming around as a pack, and pretty much what they have to do. If you're caught isolated at this point, someone's going to blow you up, whether it's the Jax, the Akali. The Jinx is going to 1v1 anyone at this point, really. She's got summoners available. One
really big win there, though, is that the teleport was used by Maximize, not by Chungi. So they do actually get a pretty favorable side lane assignment, right, of Kyosei into Chungi, 2-level advantage. Pretty strong overall. This Viego has the potential to really keep Chungi down. And Order will never play around that. So as long as they delay this Baron, you would say Gravitas in good stead, but it's already at 4K.
Oh, Kano's going to have to pull off a mighty fine steal. Teleports are coming on through. Thomas Shen looking for some damage, some poke, and it's actually going to be the turn in from Order. The rocket lands on top of the entire Gravitas roster, and it is utter decimation at the moment. Death Sentence connects, but Gravitas, they're turning it back on its head. Another hook connects. Kyose somehow has turned into a Thresh. I don't think it's going to be enough. Unfortunately, Safa is left alone, but there was a moment there where you thought Gravitas might turn it back on its head.
Jeez. Once again, right? These fights are closer than they should have any right being, but they're just so far ahead, Order. They're actually beating them with their wallet. Baron buff definitely going to be considered here. In terms of contest, I don't think Safa would want to have a crack at a 1v3. He would just be dying. And you can see the damage done in that last team fight. Pretty insane stuff from Thomas Shen in terms of his overall damage output. And it's, the hard engage from Order is split in the sense that, Chungi has to play well to get over the wall and does expertly to get the kills. But Puma doesn't spend the first 3 to 4 seconds of this fight fighting. And when he starts auto-attacking, Kyose already has a reset off Maximize. So he has the counter-strike and isn't taking damage. And then he's a Thresh, it hits a hook. And it just makes things...
Puma, by the way.
Yeah, on Puma. It makes things really difficult for the side of Order to actually win that one. But eventually, right, the tricks run out and the wallet comes out.
Not too bad from Thomas Shen in that fight, though. 4k damage from the Ezreal, and you consider the item difference between him and Puma. Gotta say, that's a pretty reasonable amount of damage to come through from him. Rocket, maybe just to even get vision of Safa for a moment there, but there was nowhere to go. So this will be another dragon in the back pocket of Order. 3. Cloud Cell definitely on offer for them. You can't imagine it's going to be easy to contest for Gravitas, but look, some signs of life at least for Gravitas.
Yeah. They're fighting, right? They definitely are still playing this game to win. They're not losing slowly by any means. Unfortunately, because the pick we just saw on Safa goes down, I'm not even sure we'll get to the 4th Drake of the game for Order. They've got so much freedom and space to move right now that this mid lane's going to be threatened and bot lane is already being taken down.
Yeah, that inhibitor's not going to last too long with Maximize and Chungi hanging around there, and Gravitas responds, then they lose their mid tower and potentially even lose the mid inhibitor as well. They're caught between a rock and a hard place here, Gravitas. No decision seems like a good one as Order continues to push forward. Do they even look to just end the game right here with Baron in their back pocket? Safa goes forward and gets deleted. Puma says thanks very much for the DoorDash delivery. That's 10 kills, 10, 2, and 7 right now for Puma, and you can bet he's going to get a couple more right here. This is the end of the game. This is Gravitas in their death throes, and Order have completed a very comfortable victory, 25-10, as the 29th minute ticks over. Order picks up the win and says thank you very much for the easy game in the end. Gravitas, they had their moments, they had some great moments, and it was close for a while, but then Order just seemed to escalate. Accelerate is probably the word that I want to go with there.
I mean, that was just a mostly clean victory there from Order, right? They get their eye in, and then they never really look like slowing down or look like stopping. The only thing that stopped them was quite literally a Rift Herald and a wall that bought more time than, unfortunately, Gravitas were able to after the Baron went down. But, like, again, all credit to Order for the way that they won that out, because they had a recipe from draft. They played the recipe out perfectly, right? They get the solo kills in the counter matchups, and then you've just got the monsters of bottom lane putting in so much work to carry through the team fight.
All right, well, Mac, I can hear you giggling in the background there. You've got your prediction correct again. Congratulations. You can thank Twitch chat for that one. But what do you think of that game?
I thought that was great to watch. I actually was really back in Gravitas in that fight around the Baron not long ago. I think it was probably only 3 minutes ago now. And Puma was just so damn slippery in that fight. He came within an inch of his life at one point, and then from there it was just, he got to stand back, he got to do jinx things, attack very quickly at everyone and dish out huge damage, turn the fight, and from there it was just downhill. So obviously getting the Baron and then just having that so much of a gold lead at that point where they just were able to make that siege happen into the base quite easily. And, I really wish we got to see more of the in the wall, help me, step jungler, I'm stuck action. It didn't really happen, no. And we managed to fix that one, fortunately. So got out of there, and we hopefully will have no more of that issues in the future.
Yes, Mac. I certainly hope we have no more issues like that in the future, because it buys a lot of time and we're stuck talking about champions instead of watching some good League of Legends. But that is what we got to see at the very end of this one, right? Order, once they've got the ball in their hands, definitely never looked like throwing it away. Bar a couple of really good moments from Gravitas, I think it's worth saying. They tried their best, but similar to Order's last game where they got definitively draft gapped by Legacy, I think shoes on the other foot this time around. Gravitas have suffered at the hands of a good Order draft.
Yeah, I think the other thing we need to point out as well is, you know, you guys were talking about it all game. As soon as you pick a 580 comp, it just makes it that's so much harder. So much harder to get the W, especially when the enemy team knows how to itemize correctly, and that's exactly what they did. They got that armor stacked up, and from that point, all the team fights just seemed to be quite one-sided. The damage that could have been put out by Gravitas just got halved, essentially.
Yeah, not really too much to say about that one, unfortunately, for Gravitas. I mean, I feel like they had the opportunity to really work their way through that from the outset. Things were going okay for them. You know, even Thomas Shen later on in the game was putting some decent damage through, but at the end of the day, I mean, look at the gap. I mean, 27,000 damage coming through from the Jinx. Puma's been doing a lot of damage, doing a lot of work, and overall, easy for Order in the end.
Yeah, it was a very good game for Order, and another W on the board. So one of these crucial ones that they need to get to make sure Gravitas, of course, doesn't catch up to them and steal that playoff spot. So they're going to be very happy with this W. And look, there was maybe a chance, there was maybe an angle back in for Gravitas, but it would have taken a whole damn lot of work. However, I didn't see that angle, and I don't think they did either. Now, someone we do want to see, though, is Nat. She's down on the sidelines. Let's bring her back in for the conversation. Who do you have down there for the winners interview?
I'm going to be joined by Puma for the winners interview. Congratulations on that win. How do you feel after that win?
I'd say I feel relieved. Our practice coming to this week hasn't been the best, and Gravitas, as much as I consider them bad, they can actually win, like, against anyone. So I think this win, like, it sort of just reminded us that we are good. I mean, not good, but like we can make playoffs again. Yeah.
Do you feel that it's hard to prepare for teams like Gravitas because, you know, they can win some games and they can't win some games?
I do think today we draft capped them, but even last week when we versed Legacy, we did get draft cap. So I think draft does play a huge part in the games, especially since they're best of one. So if you get an advantage in draft, then that's a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely. Would you also say that you're happy with your performance? Because I feel so many times I talk to you, you say that you have a lot to improve on, but surely at some point you think to yourself, you know what, I am actually playing really well, because you did play so well today.
Well, I think for me, I have two voices. One that says that I'm good, and one that says that I'm bad, like, pretty much. I think most of the time it says I'm pretty bad, but a lot of the time, like, it's 50-50 if, like, I do well. So I guess I could say I'm proud today.
Listen. Yeah, you should definitely listen to the positive voice a little bit more. You are playing quite spectacular. But with that game, you guys seemed to just snowball. That wasn't really stopping you guys. Is that how it felt down in the team? And is that what was sort of like coming across in communications?
Yeah, I don't know what happened today, but I think most of my teammates had a bit of sugar before the game. So the environment it wasn't as serious as you'd expect.
I could only imagine with you guys down there. But look, congratulations again on the win. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me.
Thank you.
Always good to hear from Puma. Now, we are just going to be jumping straight towards that DoorDash player that delivered. Nat, do you have any idea of who it was?
I actually do this time. I did have a bit of a peek. I do know.
Sport.
Yeah, sorry, I can't guess this time. I don't want to.
I wish production would just choose so I could ask this question because it's always ruined. Anyway, someone that's not going to have a ruined night, of course, is Beats, because he is the DoorDash player that delivered for this game, just setting up, what, 20 kills, getting 2 of his own. Died 3 times, but look, we don't look at that stat. That's fine. 88% kill participation and a big influence in today's W for Order. So he's going to be taking home that $100 DoorDash voucher and keeping himself fed. So, you know, pretty fed as a supporter as well. 20 assists. I'm sure he was raking in the gold, even though it was only 14% gold share. Rusty, are you happy with the 34 wards placed in whatever was it a 30-minute game?
I mean, I'm perfectly fine with it, Mac. And the thing that I want to say here as well is people may come into this one and say, oh, Puma was robbed. I'm just going to say I'm biased to supports, but honestly deal with it because Beats carried and Puma is just a very good player that, you know, accepted the enemy hooks or the hooks on the enemies willingly and put in the work late game. But he got him there. Beats got him there. So that's why he's
just
my
saying,
player.
Beats had slightly more kill participation than Puma did. So that's a tick in my book as well.
Puma has also already gotten play that delivered 3 times, I believe. I think we need to start comparing...
That is Beats' first one.
Yeah, I think we need to start comparing Puma to his previous times that he wins because, like Rossi said, he's just an all-around good player, right? So we're going to have high standards for him now.
It was just consistency. Now, speaking of consistency, let's see if Direwolves can find some of that piece as well. They've got a bit of a roster swap coming into today as well. But before we jump into the final match of the day, there's time for one more break. Ladies and gentlemen, exclamation playlist in the chat to listen to all the sick music from Warner, and we'll see you just after this.
Hovering of the jungler here, Max has to play this one out expertly and wait for his own jungler to make the play. Times it well.
Or does he? Ooh.
That'll be one tick.
Oh, it does actually tick enough. I think it was a corrupting pot in there as well that helped out. Puma says, thanks very much for the DoorDash delivery. That's 10